Welcome to the Co-Host Bros podcast, the #1 show for short-term rental operators, co-hosts, and hospitality entrepreneurs who are done playing small. 2 hosts, 1 mission: help you build a short-term rental business that actually works. Every week, Matt Codd and Austin Spitzenberger bring you real talk, real strategies, and real results from the people actually doing it in the STR industry. Whether you are just starting out or scaling to your next 100 doors, this is your show. Let's get into it.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 113, where it feels like a dream of the Co-Host Bros podcast. My name is Matt Codd, and I'm hanging out with Austin Spitzenberger. And once again, we are the Co-Host Bros podcast because I skipped the line. But anyway, we want you guys, appreciate you guys listening to the show. Please like, share, review, subscribe, all that stuff. Today, we have a special guest, a rock star, Jodi Cleer, in the house. So what's going on, everybody?
Hey. Jodi, how you doing?
Good. I'm honored to be 113. I love the number 13. I like to defy the odds. Good luck.
That's awesome. Well, we're super excited to have you on, and you're not too far from me, I think, because you're in the Dripping Springs area. I'm in New Braunfels, so 45-ish minutes maybe. So technically, we probably could have done it in person, but we're here in Zoom, and it's going to be awesome. But Jodi, for those that maybe don't know you, if you don't mind, maybe give us a little background of your history kind of in the space, and maybe we'll get into like what you got going on today.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. I actually started in the hotel industry in 2010 and then transitioned over to the vacation rental space in 2014 as a vendor. I work for a company, RealVoice, which is a reservation call center based out of Memphis. And they still do after-hour calls and help out with reservations, after-hour maintenance issues, that type of thing. During that time, I was on the conference circuit. So I was doing all the booths, meeting all the property managers. And one of our clients at the time was Park City Rental Properties. And I kind of, met up with that group of guys and became interested in what they were doing. And then in 2017, I also had a social media marketing company where I was doing social pages for hotels and for vacation rentals. Excuse me. And started doing their social media. And then they were looking to expand. And I've always been very interested in sales and talking to people. And so they were only in Park City at the time, and then expanded. I joined forces with them and expanded to Sedona, Scottsdale, Whitefish, Montana, and right here in Dripping Springs. And so moved from the vendor to the property manager, which rarely happens in this industry. It's usually the other way around. And grew that company from 235 properties to 800. And then in May of 2024, we partnered with a group of other property managers in the country called AwayDay. And from there, I went from being the CMO of what we called I Love Vacations. I kind of left out a little spot right there. But because we had so many locations, we kind of created a collab called I Love Vacations back in 2020, and then acquired in 2024. Partnered, like I said, with AwayDay, and I went from being the chief marketing officer at I Love Vacations, then to basically working on mergers and acquisitions on the buy side with the AwayDay team. So 12 years, went through vendor, property manager, now to private equity, and I'm also a homeowner. I have 18 vacation rentals myself, where I'm owner but not operator. I know a lot of people exist as owner operators, but I think my list of to-do every day is a little too much to do that. So I do have those professionally managed. And then on top of that, I've gotten into multifamily and mobile home parks. So very heavy in real estate. still feeling very bullish on real estate and excited about what the future holds.
I love that. It's interesting to me that you have so much experience and knowledge in the space that you have 18 vacation rentals. So you could probably do it yourself at a very high level, but you don't, because 18 vacation rentals in itself is a small management company of somebody like I would know that I would network with, and they would be like, "Yeah, I manage like 18 high end listings." So that's like almost your investment portfolio is the size of what a management company would be. So that's very impressive. Whereabouts are your vacation rentals spread out? Are they in are they all in one market, multiple markets? Um, where are they located at?
Well, that's kind of how we expanded the business in Park City. Every time we would start a new location as a property manager, we would go in and buy a home. And so the best way I think to really associate yourself with a new community is to be a homeowner and be present in that community. So when we went to Sedona, bought a house in Sedona. When we went to Scottsdale, bought a house in Scottsdale. Same in Whitefish. And I have partners in all of these homes. But it was a great way for us to assimilate into the community by purchasing a home and saying, as part of our, pitch to manage the property, not only can we manage your property, but we're managing our own. We understand the area, we understand the community, we have a home here as well. And also, I think it's a common ground thing when you're talking to a homeowner about possibly managing their home, that you're like, hey, I've been in your shoes. I understand whether it's the regulations in that area. I mean, here in Texas, water's a big issue. We have several like ranch style homes where it's septic, it's wells, things that most people don't ever experience. I know I didn't until I actually lived here. And so when you can get on that granular level with homeowners, they feel like you understand them and understand their needs. So the homes are spread out everywhere. That's why I
Yeah,
can't manage them myself.
no, that makes sense. I think that's exactly how we got started. I got started, Matt got started, as we did this ourselves first, purchased a home, figured it out, and accidentally became vacation rental managers along the way. And I think it's like, to your point, I think it's so much easier to sell your business model when you actually have skin in the game doing it too. And you're like, hey, like I actually own a house versus, so like it's so easy to just start a management company these days. Like anyone can do it. The cost of capital is low. You just have to be willing to deal with a lot of different personality types. So I think there's a lot of power in, being an owner first and having skin in the game and being able to prove to people like, hey, I've done this myself. Um, so I just think it builds credibility.
It's very interesting because a lot of people have your story, and it's the story of what I call the accidental manager. However, I think during COVID, people intentionally started getting into the business. The joke used to be, I didn't go to college to learn about, property management. I don't have a degree in property management. But now I think since COVID, we're starting to see a lot of people purposely get into the industry without having a home, but starting to manage other homes. I think that started kind of with the arbitrage model. And now the arbitrage has run its course and it's out. We're still seeing people who are like the co-host. And I think that's really kind of like the future of our industry, are the co-host who come in and assist with people and then find out, oh, I can make a viable business out of this.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that when you say like co-hosting is like the future of our industry? Like kind of I'm just curious, what do you mean by that?
Well, I think they do a lot of things different than what we'll call a professional property manager. And that's not to say that co-hosts aren't professional. I'm just trying to make two distinctions here, two different groups. Um, the co-host, they do things more intentionally. I think that their sense of hospitality is much greater than that of a professional manager. A professional manager has a team, they have employees, they have different things that they're involved in, whereas a co-host is strictly dealing one-on-one with homeowners and guests. They are in the weeds, they see everything. And because you are that party of one, being wearing all hats and doing all things for all people, you're ingrained into that situation and you have the ability to do things that a professional manager wouldn't necessarily be able to do on the hospitality level. And I think as a professional manager, we can learn a lot from them. But I also think the co-hosts have a lot to learn from professional property managers as well. There's a nice blend there between those two worlds. I'm starting to see them collide. There are a few collaborations in the industry right now that are starting to happen where I feel like we're all coming together, which is a good thing because if you look even as individual owners, 90% of the listings on the OTAs are owner operators or co-host. Only 10 to 12% are actually professionally managed.
Yeah, our show is kind of confusing because we're called the Co-host Bros, but Matt and I are full service property managers, but we just co-host this podcast, so it is kind of confusing. That I think maybe people come on here. We never even say that. Like, I mean, people know if you listen to the show that we're full service vacation rental managers, but if you think that, I don't know, it's also like there's just this gray area of like they've almost used the terms interchangeably. So like my definition of co-host is probably different than someone else's. Like, Patrick Switek, right? Like his company is called the Co-host Company, but he's a full service property manager. So I don't know, just weird.
Well, you used to co-host though,
Yeah, I used to co-host, but not
and I
anymore.
do. I have one property that I co-host right now still, but yeah, it's a headache.
Yeah, I think people start. Maybe it's a stepping step, right, or a stepping stone, right? Like you start to co-host, and then you realize, all right, I don't really have a business unless I control the money. If someone else is controlling the money, then do I really have a business, or am I just a vendor to this homeowner? And as you become more sophisticated, you realize the importance of controlling the money. Or you have that one bad experience, whether it's with a guest or you covered the HVAC that had to be replaced in the middle of the night and can't get reimbursed. You start to realize, okay, it's time for me to take this more serious as a business. And in order to be a business, I need to control the money. Also, when you're a co-host, that's a lot of personalities to deal with. Once you get to 10 homes, now you have 10 owners who see every message, who are dabbling in things, who are like, well, why didn't you do this? Or I would have done this differently. And so now you're being micromanaged by 10 different owners. And so there does come a point out of necessity where you go from being the co-host to being the professional manager. The other thing I think is interesting is terminology, like you were saying with your show. They refer to themselves as STR or short-term rentals, and we refer to ourselves as VR or vacation rentals. And there's some brand confusion, I think, among guests and consumers as to there already is, right? Everybody calls it an Airbnb. Oh yeah, I rented an Airbnb. I even do it. I'm so guilty of it.
So
But
Jody,
it's so the other person you're talking to knows what you're talking about.
yeah, it's so hard to tell people, hey, we manage luxury vacation rentals. They're like, what does that mean? And I'm like, we manage cool Airbnbs. And they're like, oh, okay, I got it. And it just
Right.
sucks that that's the way that we live in, that we're so at a point where Airbnb has such a strong presence that it's like we're so reliant on it that it's like kind of interchangeably saying you're going to get a Coke when you're going to just get a generic soda, or if you need a ride, you're going to get an Uber, but you're saying Uber, but it just means you're getting a ride. So yeah, I see what you're saying. Um, but no, I started out that way too. So I did start out with co-hosting, and then I realized exactly that. I was trying to find all of these ways to get the owners out of the mix, but I'm attached to their profile that they own, but they're complicating everything and making it difficult. I didn't do trust accounting, and I didn't own the listings, and I learned the hard way that that wasn't the way to do it. And I wasn't actually building a business for myself. I was just building myself a very busy job. So I made that transition. That was the first thing. But I was curious for you, like when you're looking at acquisition targets and stuff like that, maybe you can elaborate more on like how a co-hosting business is structured. Are they even valuable? Can people acquire co-hosting business? There's like, if somebody's like, hey, I have 20 co-hosted listings, like what can I do with that?
That is a great question, and that is what I feel like the last 6 months I've become ingrained in the co-host community, and I have been training and educating and helping people like, "Hey, if you want to sell this one day or you want to partner with another company, um, let's legitimize what you're doing. Because if you're just going to be a co host, like you said, you don't own anything, right? So, step one is really making sure that you have a good agreement. A lot of times people go into co hosting and they don't have a property management agreement. They have, a handshake, which is well and good, like again, until something happens. The other thing I tell people is when you do that property management agreement, make sure that there is verbiage in there that contract is assignable. That means that someday you can merge with another company. Maybe it's your neighbor, maybe it's another company, maybe it's a group of companies. You have to make sure that it's assignable. Number two, making sure that you're legal within the district that you're in. That's something really big that I fully believe in is that we're all good players, right? So make sure you have your licensing, make sure that you are set up to pay your taxes. Because even though Airbnb and sometimes Verbo, depending on what your agreement is, are set up as the merchant of record and they're collecting the taxes, you will have opportunities for repeat guests, direct bookings, which is your ultimate goal, where you will be collecting that lodging tax. So you need to make sure that you're set up for that lodging tax as well. Um, Also, having some type of software set up that's going to help you manage calendars. And so I know there's a lot of technologies out there that do calendar syncing, but thinking about where you want to be with your business, what's the max amount of properties you want to take on, and then finding a PMS that kind of matches the needs based upon your growth trajectory. Um, but I think really looking at your 5, 10, and 15-year plan. Where do I want to be in 5 years? And then change your business strategy based upon what that 5, 10, and 15-year plan is. If you're happy just managing other people's properties, then, so be it. But if you want to make it a viable business that people would actually purchase, then you really are going to need property management agreements and control of the money and the trust account.
Yeah, I guess I just don't get it. Like, I mean, I did it, but I didn't know what I didn't know. But now looking back at it, I'm just thinking to myself, I wouldn't, if you're capable of doing it and you're in a market where, you can do trust accounting and you don't need X, Y, and Z or broker's license or whatever. I just don't know why I would encourage one. I did it because it was easier. Like the barrier to entry was even lower because it was like I can just make this account and I already have an Airbnb for my own property I manage. And it was just so easy to just add people like that. But I just don't see the benefits in it. I wouldn't never set it up like that unless for some reason the market I was in, there were certain licenses. And even at that point, whatever those would be, if they weren't too difficult, I would go get those licenses so I can actually build a business. Right.
Yeah, I think Airbnb does a good job of pushing it as well, right? They've even now come up with the income split. It didn't used to be that way where you can go in and say, okay, this percentage is mine, this percentage is my manager's. Because before then, it was even more dangerous. You had even more liability because you would have to invoice them to get your commissions back.
Yeah.
And now they have that split in that. But you're right, it's the easy button and it's non-committal. I think a lot of people, like you said, they're like, oh, well, I'll try this. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But the same for the homeowner, right? The homeowner's thinking the same thing. They control the listing and they're like, well, if this person works out, they work out. If they don't, I just kick them off my listing. So there's no commitment from either side in that situation.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, being a co-host, I think being a co-host is like being middle level management. Like you're getting it from your employees and you're getting it from the boss at the same time. And it's like you don't know who you could please, and you're trying to please that person, but you're trying to please that person. And chasing money freaking sucks. It really does. And like Austin said, yeah, it is low barrier to entry, so that's cool, right? And probably most homeowners are just like, oh, I can just cancel anytime I want. Like, what are they
I
gonna do?
remember. Sorry, I'll let you go back to Matt. But when I
No, you're
remember when I
good.
was like, there was one time when I was like invoicing, and I was like, it was before the split thing, and I was just like, invoicing out for my services, and I was just like, it was like over $20,000 or something. I was waiting to just like be. Some of it was reimbursed, some of it was commission. It was over $20,000, and I was like, well, I hope everybody pays me this month. It's so much different. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Matt.
I remember that though. No, I remember we were talking about it, and you're like, yeah, man, I got like $9,000 outstanding just cleaning alone. And I'm like, I got to get that money. So it's just, I mean, it's tougher. And I think what you like with the merger and acquisition, like a couple of things with the co-host, because I kind of want to like point on it. Like, so I know when you're merging or acquiring, let's say, or acquiring a management company, depending on how many properties there are and how good there are, there could be multiples involved to the contract. Uh, what is actual co-host contract work? Say you have 20 co-host properties. Like, what is that worth to anybody? Is it worth anything or nothing?
It's worth nothing. You don't control the money. You don't really own anything. You don't even in most points, have that property management agreement. So what would the other person be buying? The hope and prayer that that person continues to do business with you. Also, property management is a very personal experience. It's a relationship business. You probably, as a co-host, and I'm making assumptions here, but that was your neighbor or, a friend of a friend, somebody who was referred to you through your network. It's a very personal experience, and many times we're talking about $1 million asset that you're handing the keys to and saying, yeah, please look after my home. So without agreements and without control of the money, you really have nothing of value. And as Austin said, you're a vendor. You're just working for that homeowner.
Once I realized that's when I've switched. When I realized that sorry to cut you off, Matt. When I realized how you actually build something of value, and you have to own the bank accounts and you have to own the listings. And when I realized I had neither one of those, that's when I was like, yeah, you cannot do this, or else I'm gonna have 60 properties all co-hosted. And yeah, I don't know. No.
No, I was hoping you would say that, honestly, for the people that are out there that are listening and have, like, let's say 10 properties and are co-hosting, like, it might be time for you to make some kind of change or restructure your contract when you come to renewals. If you're even sending renewals, hopefully you are, I don't know. But I mean, I wanted to point that out. So I like that you pointed that out. As far as, well, actually, I had another question to come with the co-hosting. Have you ever seen anybody actually acquire a co-host company?
I've seen several instances where people have merged, and that seems to be kind of a trend right now, is that you'll have in a local area somebody with 10 and somebody else with 10, and then they'll merge. I can think of one acquisition that I knew of in Arizona where she was running as a co-host. And she actually, this is probably a very good example of what happens. And then she sold, she had medical issues, had to move out of state, and she sold her business to one of her homeowners. And within a matter of months, he'd lost over half of those homes. Just in the transition alone. And a lot of times people will see transition as a time to cut bait. Maybe they're not happy anyway. And so they're like, oh, you're leaving? Okay, well, I was considering, going this way, or I was considering self-managing, was consider selling the home. I was considered going with another property management company. Those are probably the three major reasons that people decide to change. And so it's a good time. You're like, well, if we're doing that, we might as well do this too, right? So that transition, you're going to lose a lot of them. But I'm trying to think of an example of someone who actually purchased a co-host company. And I don't think I can think of a single example where someone did that.
I would think you'd want to pay, like, you would say like, hey, I'm going to acquire this person, but it's really going to be on how many co-host contracts I can get them. Their owners basically just, they're not assignable or anything. So like they would get the homeowner to sign a new contract, and you could say, hey, I'll pay you out X amount per person that signs a new agreement with my company. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like let's say being a hairdresser, and you're like, I'm moving, I'm going to sell you all my clients. That's a very personal relationship, right?
Yeah.
Like, are you like, oh, you're the new hairdresser? Yeah, go ahead, cut my hair, right?
Yeah.
That's very difficult. But let's talk about actually transition for just a minute, because if someone is considering transitioning from co-hosting to professional management, I think the biggest hurdle that you have to get over is that money component and controlling the money. Because the homeowner goes from instant gratification of receiving their money instantly to a 1 month payout. And that is probably the hardest thing. And people are very nervous about having to break that news to the homeowner. They're like, hey, I'm going full service. This is great news because of this, this, and this. However, you're not going to get your money up front. I'm going to hold the money until I deem it necessary to give it back to you. Right. So I think that to me is probably the biggest hump that people have to overcome if they're wanting to make that switch. And a lot of people, if you really focus it around property care and saying, hey, I'm putting out money every month for little, it could be little things, right? Air AC filters, cleanings, light bulbs. It could be major things. You know, a new water heater needed to be replaced last month. That was $3,000. I'm out $3,000 until you decide to pay me, you know. So just kind of flipping it a little bit. It's only a 1 month hump, right? Until they kind of catch up, because they're getting their money immediately. And once you switch to that 1 month, it's like that first 30 to 45 days is a dry spell of no money coming in. But then once that, then you have created a system where they know they're getting paid, you know, the first of the month every month, and it works out better. But that is probably the biggest thing that you need to overcome if you're going to make that switch.
Yeah, that's tough. Do you think that if they're running a property management company or even a co-host company, like in general, do you think that they should standardize things like door locks or any kind of equipment they use? Do you think they should standardize that across the house? I see a lot of co-hosts like, oh, I got to jump in the Ring app for this guy, and I got to jump in this app for that guy, and I got to jump in that app for that guy. And I feel like a lot of people don't focus on standardization. I feel like it makes it difficult when you go to hire your first employee, things like that, because you're just kind of just out there in the wind, like your money is.
Yeah, you know, you have to make your business scalable, right? And in order to make it scalable, you have to have systems and processes. And if you've got 3 separate logins for locks, it's not convenient. The other thing that makes your business attractive when someone's looking to acquire you is, can that business run without you? You know, if you step away, is that business sustainable without you? Or do you hold all the keys, or what we call single point of failure? Like, if I'm not here, then the business doesn't run, right? And so that's not a valuable business either. You want a business that has processes, has standards, and has a proven system, so that if I go out of town for a week, the business continues on without me. That makes your business even more valuable if you could do that.
That's a lot of business problems, key man risk. And then, that main guy is, and then the business is like, we're done. So,
yeah. And some people say, oh, well, it's me, I'll always be here. But you can't say that. Life happens, even just a car accident or a death in the family or unexpected illness. And, you know, who's gonna run that business without you, or who's gonna step in?
Yeah. I think the key man risk that Matt pointed out, it's a good point. And that's probably one of the things that is something that you're looking for when you're looking maybe for these acquisition potential people that to come under the AwayDay umbrella or something like that. What are a couple of things that when you're looking, because you're the one, you go out and you look for specific acquisition, maybe potential clients, right? So what are some of the things maybe that you're looking for when you are seeing if a business might be a good fit for you guys, or what's some valuable? Let me rephrase my question. What's something valuable for our audience that is building a vacation rental management company? Maybe something they should focus on during the process of building it that they may not realize whether it be key man risk or profitability or something like that? What's something that you see that could maybe help them along the way?
So many things. And a lot of it, like I said, I've just learned along the way and seeing how other people run their business, because there is no playbook, right? All of us have gone into this and just created our own rules. And, sometimes we get in message boards or talk to one another, but again, you're only relying on your peers' thoughts. There is no set of rules as to how to do it. Now, there's preferred ways. Number one, trust account. Be strict with that trust account. Don't ever dip into it. Some states don't follow trust accounting. They don't care what your trust accounting is, but you should care. You never want to get in a spot where you are dipping into that to pay for labor or anything like that. The next, as far as while we're talking about accounting, is accrual versus cash accounting. You always want to do accrual, not cash, because we do hold funds in advance. You never want to recognize that as revenue until it's actually consumed. And so a lot of people will keep cash books, money in, money out, which is the easiest way to do it. However, when you're trying to value your business, we're really looking at what has been realized, what not is in the future, or what could happen. We're looking at culture. What does your team look like? How long have they been with you? Are they jiving really well? Are things going well? Are you efficient? Do you have too many people? Are you too lean? Have you figured out that people component? I think people are the number one thing that we're looking at when we're going to acquire a company, because that's who's going to take you on to the next level, right? Of course, we're looking at inventory. How scattered is the inventory? How complete is it in one area? Is that an area that we want to be in? Is that an area that maybe has some saturation in the market? One of the other main questions is, of your total inventory, how many do you personally own? And the reason we ask that question is flight risk, right? If you have a portfolio of 20 and you own 10 and you decide, this isn't working for me, that's a huge risk for the person who's looking to merge or be acquired by you. So concentration of not only owner operator, but maybe do you have one person that you manage for that has an overabundance of homes in your inventory? That could be the same thing. Oh, we have one owner and he owns half of my inventory that I manage, but he's a great guy. He's not going anywhere, right? So, and he could be a fantastic guy, but what happens if he decides to sell all 10 tomorrow? That's half of your inventory. So that's another thing that we look at. Are you on a PMS? Do you have the tools in place? Revenue management. What are you doing to market? Do you have a website? Do you have processes in place? All of those things are going to make your company more valuable. Now, we're also looking at where can we go in and make improvements, right? So mergers and acquisitions is all about, okay, how can we come together and help each other? And if you've already perfected it and you're perfect, it's like buying a house. If you're a house flipper, you're not going in and buying the best house on the block for the highest amount of money, because what can I add to that? How can I improve? I'm looking for people that I can partner with, maybe in an area I'm not in already, maybe who have a skill set that possibly I don't have, and we can build off of one another. And I see this a lot of time with smaller areas, like where maybe two people are both in the Scottsdale area and they merge together as one force, because maybe one's really good at business development, but the other's really good at operations. And then they use those two things to come together. If they're both fantastic or, set in their ways, that's not going to make a really good merger, because then you've got too many cooks in the kitchen. So really having a company and finding someone to partner with that matches or is in need of your skill set. I'm trying to think of what else, but I mean, those are like the things that really come to mind when I think about the gotchas, as for selling your company. And then, I would also say debt. How much debt are you in? Are you going to get just enough money to pay off your debt? That's kind of a bummer. So try to stay above water when it comes to debt, which again means your trust account is 100%.
Yeah. No, I love that. Matt, did you have anything or on that, or did you want to? I was going to pivot to VRMA related stuff, but it's up to you, man. Do you have any
I
questions?
mean, to have one other
Go for it.
question. Do you see that people who own their own short-term rentals are better operators than people who don't?
100%. Yeah. 100%. Well, okay, maybe not 100%.
97. No.
97%. They care, right? That's their money. Um, and they want everything. So, have you guys ever heard of the 5 owner love languages?
No, but we're going
I
to
don't think
now.
so.
Ooh. So this is something that I learned actually from Steve Schwab years and years ago, and we kind of took it and tweaked it and made it into our own. But every owner has a different love language and a different reason as to why they have purchased that home. Number one is revenue. They're only concerned about the revenue. How much is my home making? What are we doing? How come you charge this rate? What if we did this instead of this? They're very analytical. They want to know everything about revenue. Number two would be property care. How are you taking care of my home? Did you see there was a windstorm the other night? Did you check the roof? Has anybody been to the home to check on this? My water bill was really high last month. What was going on over there? What's going on with the pool? Communication. I want to know everything that's going on in that house. How come nobody's called me? I know somebody went over. Pest control was over there the other day. Did they find any bugs? You know. Number 4 is going to be trust. I'm handing you the keys to my multi-million-dollar asset. Can I trust you? The last manager I have had his friends and family spending the night in the house and they weren't paying. I saw people on the camera that shouldn't have been there. I just don't trust that they were doing a good job, or I just didn't trust that what they were telling me was actually true. And number 5 is pride and ownership. This is the person who's concerned about the reviews. What kind of reviews did I get? Did people love it? What's the feedback? What can I do to improve the home? How can I make people's experience better? So depending, now back to your question, Matt, now that we know the 5 love languages, depending on what love language that owner is, really depends on how good of an owner operator they are. Because obviously they're going to focus on the thing that gives them the warm fuzzies, right? I love when I get 5-star reviews. I love when people have a great time and I see that, big families had come together and they had awesome. Or I love when my occupancy jumps and my RevPAR all at the same time, and we're just killing it this year. So, based upon that owner's love language, is really kind of what kind of operator they're going to be or what they would focus on. But there's no doubt that those owner operators, they get the 5-star reviews because they are having and building one-on-one relationships with those guests.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, I also did want to mention you don't own your reviews if you're a co-host either.
True.
I did want to mention that earlier because it's like that's the biggest thing I think people don't realize sometimes. I don't know how many people I see like, oh, I don't own the reviews. It's like, nah, not yours. Sorry, you still at a 0.0.
You are not a super host. The owner is.
Yeah, for sure. Austin, let's talk about VRMA. What you got about it?
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead, Jodi.
No, you go.
Oh, I was just gonna say I was emailing them today. I can't remember. We were members, but then I couldn't remember my email. I was actually gonna buy my tickets today, which was great timing for this. So I emailed them to figure that out. So depending on whether I have to pay the full price or we still have our membership. So, looking forward to that. I went last year. It was awesome. It was my first time at that conference last year, and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going again. But you are running for something. You can tell us about that. And I think you would be a better person to tell people. A lot of our audience, I think, is more of less VRMA, like kind of, I think we talked about this before we were recording, or was this while we were recording? VRMA versus STR, and then there's the, vacation rental space. I think a lot of our audience is more of the, STR-ish folks. And I think it's like you said, it's kind of the two communities I seem to be merging together. So I encourage people to take a look at it. And I had a really good time, and I'm curious to hear, what are you running for? Tell us a little bit about VRMA and what our listeners can expect.
Yeah. So VRMA, or the Vacation Rental Managers Association, I've been involved with since day one as a vendor. And this year I'm running for the board of directors, which is a group of property managers and vendors who really help the community and kind of pull together the education piece as well as the advocacy piece. And I think advocacy is the biggest thing that people don't realize they need until they need it. And what I mean by advocacy is when a local jurisdiction or municipality comes in and decides we want to ban STRs. And then you as an owner operator, or you as a property manager, what is the recourse? Who's got your back? Who's going to help you talk to these your congressman or to your local government? And that really is one of the core reasons that VRMA exists, is to create a community where we're all on the same page. We're all on the same page, wanting the same things. It also is a great education. I would actually throw it back to you, Austin, because you went last year to the national conference, which was in Las Vegas last year, this year in Nashville. What was the one takeaway that you came back with after that conference?
Um, when I go to a conference or something like that, I go with 1 to 2 problems specifically that I am trying to solve. And last year when I went, it was in regards to uh, business development, right? So like I was trying to figure out how we can sign more clients, what kind of sales deal we should put in place. So one of the sessions was really good with this guy, and he went through like 5 like low hanging fruits of how to sign clients, and we had all of them in place except the last one. And the last one was kind of like, build out a CRM, stuff like that. So the big takeaways for me is we got our CRM dialed in and got like an owner outreach deal. So if it costs $1,500 or whatever it costs per ticket, we got more than that back in clients that we've sold. Number one. And then number two was like, okay, we're going to start looking at not the level of acquisitions you're doing, but that 15 to 25 unit manager that reaches a point where they're the key man risk, and we're the person that can kind of, so twofold. Business development was getting our CRM up, and then acquiring a smaller operator, which we're working on now. And that was the biggest takeaway.
That's awesome. I think everybody has a different story, and like you said, every year it's a different experience. Because I've been going to these conferences since 2014, a big part of attending conference every year to me is networking.
Yeah.
I've built a network of property managers, friends, vendors. When you get in a bind, you have this inner circle of people that now you can pick up the phone, that you've met face to face, that you feel comfortable with. Because again, you don't have to be out there all on your own, right? That's why people are listening to this podcast right now, because they're like, how can I improve my business and how can I do it better? And when you surround yourself with people of a higher caliber than you, or with really driven goals, it motivates you, it energizes you. I think you come back from conference and you're like, I have so many ideas, which is exactly what happened with you with business development. You're like, I have this problem and now I'm feeling re-energized, and now I feel like I have a solution that I can put in place. So I think the networking component is just huge. You don't have to be all on your own. There's people out there experiencing exactly what you are.
No, to be fair, I think I went to like one. That was one of the maybe 2 total classroom sessions I went. So like if they do to 8-ish classroom sessions a day. I maybe went within those. Well, they obviously have more throughout the day, but you can only go to certain time slots. But I think on both of the days I was there, I probably did about an hour to 2 hours worth in the classroom. And I spent my entire time, exactly to your point, is meeting people that I already knew in the industry, people that I maybe recognized and wanted to know, and then just straight up new connections. And then that was, to your point, exactly like there was some tactical stuff I took away, but all the value came from the relationships that I built there. So I spent most of my time on the vendor floor talking with other managers and people like yourself in this space. Yeah, so the networking piece is huge.
Yeah, it's a conference that's very different. I feel like our community is, we're not as competitive as most people would think with one another. There's enough business for all of us, right? So we're a community that's actually really small. And, you know, we call it cooperation, like you may be my competition in Park City, but we're also really good friends, and we help each other, and that really is important, especially when you're a smaller business. And we had the big freeze here in Texas a couple of years ago, and we had homes without electricity, homes without water that had guests in them. And then we're trying to figure out, where do we move these guests? How do we help them? And it was because we had built that network of other managers in our community that we were able to pick up the phone, huddle up resources, and be able to problem solve and work things out for the guest, because our competition was also cooperating with us.
Yeah. So do you think that everybody should go to VRMA, and what do they do to get there? What should they do? Should they register as a member to get there, or like what should do you think everybody should go, and should they register as a member to do that, or what do you think? What's the best route for everybody to do this?
I think it can be a little intimidating going for your first time, not knowing anyone. But I think the first thing I would say is, you do get a discount for becoming a member. Like I said, the big part of that membership is advocacy. So if you ever run into issues with your local government, you reach out to VRMA, you tell them what's going on. They'll hook you up with someone who can help you, whether it's a lobbyist or helping you set up even advocacy groups within your own community. So that's super helpful. But then you also have access, once you get into their website, to tons of educational material, videos, different articles, ability to reach out to other people, reach out to vendors that you've been chatting with. So there's multiple reasons to join. If you want to pay the little bit higher fee and pay as a non-member and go and check it out, you can do that as well. But like I would say, don't go thinking that I'm not going to meet anyone and no one's going to talk to me, because that is the exact opposite of what happens. And there are even everything from there is a newcomers reception. The newcomers reception brings in everybody. They have ambassadors there to get to meet people. You talk with other people who were there for the first time. There are several round table sessions where you go and sit at a round table, and those can be extremely valuable, where you're just bouncing ideas off of one another and you're getting to talk to people. You're sitting at lunch. You're talking to people. You're going to, in the evening, there's parties and vendors. And we're in Nashville this year, so it's going to be all Music Row. Is that what they call it? Music Row or Broadway?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you just bounce from party to party, and you are going to find friends. You are going to find people that you are going to want to have conversations with. Even after, like, one of the sessions that you're talking about, Austin, at the end of the session, I've spoke at those before. People come up afterwards. They ask questions, and I've never seen a speaker not take questions. They're always like, yeah, here's my business card. I'd love to talk with you more. So don't be intimidated and think, oh, it's this huge conference, I'm not going to know anybody, and I'm going to walk around aimlessly. You will find friends very, very quickly.
as far as referring to like a membership, does a membership cover your whole organization, or is it per person, or how does that work?
It covers your whole organization, and it's based on your organization size. So, in fact, if you're a smaller organization, then there's a sliding scale at a discounted rate. And then everybody in your organization will be able to to share that information. But it is per company, I guess you would say.
So I think I just clauded it earlier and I just emailed them just to verify, but I think we were already members. And I don't remember what the price was, but I think when I did the math, like if just two people go, the savings already paid for itself. So at least for our tier, I think for like 50 to 100 listings, whatever it was, we were just going to have two people go and it was already paid for itself and then some, unless my pricing was off. But yeah, so to me, it looks like it makes sense. And then it has, the advocacy piece and whatever else. I don't know if there's any other things like any other advantages to joining it, maybe you didn't mention or anything like that.
You can, a lot of people will see that as a trust symbol. At the bottom of your website, a lot of people will add trust symbols, and you are able to put on there that you're a member of VRMA. One of the things that I would hope in the future VRMA would do, and if I get on the board, is one of the things I would like to push, is basically publishing that list to the general public, so that if homeowners are wanting to research and add validity to a company that they're researching, and they're like, oh, they belong to this national organization, which follows a code of ethics, that's adding credibility to your company. That's one of the things that we're kind of missing in our industry as far as like standardization and generalized. We can say, oh, I have 5-star homes, or I have luxury homes, or I have mid-tier homes. But what does that mean? So I think that VRMA can add a lot to that. I think that's one of the things that they're looking to do this year, is really standardize and centralize the industry as a whole, so that we know what our brand is and we know what our identity is as an organization and as an industry.
Yeah, Matt. So you should go this year.
I've really been debating about it. That's why I was asking. But I'm not going to go without my sidekick.
I'm
So
going, man. I just gotta buy the ticket. That's all. I just haven't done it yet.
Oh, are you saying that Austin's your sidekick?
no, my wife
Oh, okay. That's what I thought.
my genius child. I mean, he's 16, but he is like a genius. Every conference we go to, everyone's like, "Do you want a job?" So
Yeah, if he's for your size, there's definitely if you should just become a member because you're gonna save when you go check out for the conference
Yeah.
anyways, I'm sure. Well, you'd
And there
save
is
with three people anyway.
there is a guest pass as well. I mean, if the person that you're bringing just wants to attend the social events, you can do that as well.
How old is your son, Matt?
16. 16. I was listening.
I guess. Oh, he lost audio. Okay, I was about to say. I was like, they should be a discount like for his age, but like he was. I think was he there? Has he gone to all the STR Wealth conferences? Maybe you lost audio. Matt, you lost audio or no? Yeah, I don't think you can hear us. Anyways, moving on. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, I've met several, and that's kind of cool too. People that I've known for years, and then they have a child that they're bringing up in the business, and they come to the conference, and they are like sponges, and they are set. They ask really, really good questions too. I'm really inspired by some of our proteges that are coming up in the industry, because they get it and they're asking really good questions.
Yeah, so I'll give an ask to all of our listeners of going and figuring out how. Well, you're going to tell them how they can vote for you. So that's our ask for the show. If you liked it, if you got value from it, go vote for Jodi. How can they help support you?
So each company is allowed one vote. So you can't go in and vote multiple times, and there's not a public link. If you remember, you would have been emailed a link. There are 4 openings in the property manager position, and there is one in the supplier/vendor. It's a 2-year term, And there are 7 people running in the property manager position, but only 4 of those will be elected. I was chosen of one of the 4 that the leadership committee had put their little stamp of approval on. And then for the supplier vendor, there is 1 position open, and I believe there are 4 people running for that position. So it's really encouraging because I think this is the first year that we've had so many people running for those positions. In the past, it was like we have 4 openings and 4 people running. So yeah, go in and vote. You didn't have a lot of choices. So it's very encouraging that many people wanted to share this year, and that many people were willing to give of their time and be a part of an organization.
It's like a HOA.
Love it.
Running.
Oh yeah, HOA crazy
with nobody against you. That's awesome. So whenever you guys need like MCs for the event, me and Austin are just here hanging out. We're good guys. We're fun. I like to party. Austin likes to smile. So no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, they should go out there and vote for you and vote for Rachel if she's up for a vote, because we love
She's
Rachel.
part of our cooperation competition in Park City. So we have about 500 units in Park City. She's about 200. And I love her dearly. So even though we're in the same area, we really get along a lot. So
yeah, yep. She's crushing it over there too. I'm sure you were crushing it, if not way better. But she is, when we talked to her, she was doing a killer job over there. So
yep,
yeah, very fun to talk to. Well, awesome. So Jodi, we appreciate it. If you want to share anything with anybody, let them know where to find you, follow you, where to vote for you if you haven't already, because my headphones went out, so I'm good at repeating myself. You could ask my wife. But yeah, just let everybody know where they could find you and follow you, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. LinkedIn's probably the easiest. I am the only Jodi Cleer in the world, so I'm not that hard to find, and I can't really hide. But I'm happy, and I respond to every single message that I get. I have a lot of time on my hands these days, and so happy to help out and give back.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. If you guys want to listen to Rachel's episode, that was 77, and it's Cleer. Just in
Correct.
case, guys. So it sounds like it's clear when you're going to the airport, but it's more like TSA pre-check. So thank you. We appreciate it. And with that, I'll let Austin just, end the show.
All righty. Thank y'all for listening. Peace.